I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept. Radical simply means grasping things at the root. The idea of freedom is inspiring, but what does it mean? If you are free, in a political sense, but have no food, what's that? The freedom to starve. You have to act as if it were possible to radically transform the world, and you have to do it all the time. Sometimes we have to do the work, even though we don't yet see a glimmer on the horizon that it's actually going to be possible. I feel that if we don't take seriously the ways in which racism is embedded in structures of institutions, if we assume that there must be an identifiable racist who is the perpetrator, then we won't ever succeed in eradicating racism. Anyway, I don't think we can rely on governments, regardless of who is in power, to do the work that only mass movements can do. Our histories never unfold in isolation. We cannot truly tell what we consider to be our own histories without knowing the other stories, and often we discover that those other stories are actually our own stories. In many ways, you can say that the prison serves as an institution that consolidates the state's inability and refusal to address the most pressing social problems of this era. Imprisonment is increasingly used as a method of deflection of the underlying social problems: racism, poverty, unemployment, lack of education, and so on. No amount of psychological therapy or group training can effectively address racism in this country unless we also begin to dismantle structures of racism. What this country needs is more unemployed politicians. We must begin to create a revolutionary, multiracial women's movement that seriously addresses the main issues affecting poor and working-class women. Prison relieves us of the responsibility of seriously engaging with the problems of our society, especially those produced by racism and, increasingly, global capitalism. The challenge of the 21st century is not to demand equal opportunity to participate in the machinery of oppression. Rather, it is to identify and dismantle those structures in which racism continues to be embedded. For most of our history, the very category human has not embraced black people and people of color. Its abstractness has been colored white and gendered male. If indeed all lives mattered, we would not need to emphatically proclaim Black Lives Matter. Movements are most powerful when they begin to affect the vision and perspective of those who do not necessarily associate themselves with those movements. Racism cannot be separated from capitalism. In a racist society, it is not enough to be non-racist. We must be anti-racist. We have to talk about liberating minds as well as liberating society.